So I know this has happened to me before, but my October reading ended up being solely audiobooks. I did have a flick through some of the physical books for the ones that I have here, and I did start reading one on ebook before publication day hit, and then I just bought the audiobook. So welcome to my October wrap up. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel every week, and then movie reviews here at the weekend. In the description box you will find all of my social links, including my blog and my Goodreads, where I have reviews of some of these books that I'm going to talk about and some that are scheduled to come your way very soon. Yes, I normally split my reading wrap up into ebooks, physical books and audiobooks, but this month we're just talking audiobooks. But I did actually read some books, so let's go through the ones that I have as physical books first of all, and then we will talk about the ones that I just had solely as audiobooks. I did have a couple of these as audio review copies as well, so it's not all like, oh, she's just bought the audiobook even though she has a physical book. So we have Sidesplitter by Wang. I was on the blog tour for Cheltenham Literary Festival, and reviewing this book was my role in that blog tour. I had never heard of Wang before, but I decided to download the audiobook because he reads it himself and I'm always interested in that. And then because it's not actually a memoir, it doesn't actually have any pictures in, and so I was like, well, may as well do the audiobook. So Wang joined me on my commute to work and back a couple of times at the very beginning of October, and I will leave that review linked for you in the description box. It would have been nice to have been able to save this one to read in November for non-fiction November, but it was nice to have some non-fiction to fall back on, because I think aside from this one, I read all fiction this month. So it was nice to actually have some non-fiction in my reading as well. And then the final book that I read in October was Beneath the Christmas Tree by Heidi Swain. Oh, sorry, Underneath the Christmas Tree. I keep calling it Beneath the Christmas Tree. Underneath the Christmas Tree. And I would just like to point out the beautiful foil leaves with cranberries on there, or is it maybe holly? But it's very, very beautiful. This one is a adult romance from Heidi Swain. Will they find love this Christmas? That's the tagline. It being a Heidi Swain novel, we probably know the answer, but no spoilers here on this channel. Can the festive spirit find a way into Liza's heart this year? I love a Heidi Swain Christmas novel because she always takes the characters that really don't want to be there at Christmas and sort of forces them into a festive situation, and there's loads of heartwarming things that go on, and you're just, willing them to have that turning moment of, getting into the festive spirit. I'm not going to tell you whether that happens in this book or how it happens in this book, but it involves a Christmas tree farm and a lodge, and there's a big dog, and just Heidi Swain goodness. And this one is set in or just outside Weymouth, so that was Heidi's summer novel 2 years ago, so we're kind of getting another sort of third festive location, so that was a little bit different this year. But I think this is possibly one of my favorite Heidi Swain covers. I just love the pink. I if you know me, I love pink, and so I think that this cover is just stunning, and so I got sent a physical copy from Simon & Schuster because I'm on the blog tour for this one on the 4th of November, so probably as you are watching this video, if you're watching it the day it goes up, so my review for this one will be on my blog then. Then I have The Woman in the Middle by Millie Johnson. If you have seen my most recent book haul, this one as well as Sidesplitter there will have featured in that one. If you haven't seen it, I will leave it linked up above for you. And this one is a glorious signed edition as well. And she sent me a bookmark and a pen, and where's my little signed page? There we go. This one was interesting because it takes quite a few different threads. It's when you're doing it all, who's there to catch you when you fall, and we've got Shay Bastable is the woman in the middle. She is part of the sandwich generation, caring for her parents and her children, supporting her husband Bruce, holding them all together as best she can. But then when piece by piece everything Shay thought of as certain in her life is taken away and disaster strikes, she has to put herself first for a change. So that's the main premise, but I feel like there was some of this book that definitely stuck to that premise, but that we sort of went off on a tangent from lots of different arms of that story. So we had sort of a tangent from Shay's past and a tangent from Shay's parents, and Shay's parents were two very separate people and separate parts of the storyline. And then again, Shay's kids and Shay's husband very much like had their own arms of the storyline. I did wonder whether we were all going to kind of come back together and bring it all together, but I thought that the way it was all woven together was very, very clever and very Millie Johnson. But if you are expecting the sort of Millie Johnson Daily Trumpet level of comedy, the cracker joke level of comedy, that is not so present in this one, but I really enjoyed sort of seeing the pressure that Shay was under and sort of seeing the horrible people that Millie Johnson had created. The villains in this story are exceptionally villainous, but it's definitely going to be a hard one to review without spoilers, just because of all those different tangents that we go off on. So then, working my way through some more things that were actually on my TBR, which is great. I listened to the audiobook of The Party Crasher by Sophie Kinsella. This was always going to be an audiobook listen because I had an review copy of the audiobook of this one. This one felt kind of classic Sophie Kinsella. I wasn't a massive fan of her release last year. I loved Christmas Shopaholic, obviously, but wasn't a massive fan of the previous one that I made a video talking about. I will leave it linked up above. I can't remember the title. And so this one felt nice because it kind of talks about what happens when, you know, you have to kind of revisit your past a little bit and your childhood perhaps doesn't look the same as what you thought it looked like. It was kind of Becky Bloomwood level of getting into scrapes and japes along the way. There was definitely some funny moments in this one, but it all takes place over quite a squashed amount of time, so it feels really intense as well. I enjoyed the audiobook, but I struggled with hearing what some people's names were, which is an interesting one. I think just the way the audiobook narrator read them, I had to really, really slow it down. And one character's name I wasn't sure about. I had to look it up. I was like, oh, that's their name. Okay. But yeah, it definitely feels more classic Sophie Kinsella, and I do recommend it. It was a solid 4-star read if we're going with what I put on Goodreads. I did enjoy it more than her last one. And then I listened to A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. We discussed last month as to whether I was going to buy a physical copy of this one, but I thought I would listen to the audio copy first. I did have an audio review copy, and so I'm glad I just listened to the audio of it. I listened to it on a sort of long car journey there and back, so I listened to it in a very sort of intense way, sat in traffic with my handbrake on, as you are when you choose to travel on a Friday afternoon, but that's when we have to travel. So I definitely sort of enjoyed it the way it was to be intended, in that I started and didn't stop until I'd finished, but I still struggled. She does this thing after Girl on a Train. I just feel like she does this thing where she introduces so many different characters, it's so hard to keep track of them. And so now I've stepped away from the book for like a couple of weeks. I'm really struggling to recall any of the characters and what happened to them. So it was fine, it wasn't bad, like I didn't stop reading it like I did with Into the Water, but having been away from it for like 3 weeks now, I couldn't tell you what happened, what the Slow Fire Burning is about. Some of it was a bit scary. I think there was some misconceptions. It was all right, but very unmemorable, and I feel like I would have had to have kind of looked at the synopsis again before making this video, and that shouldn't be the case with a book that I'm talking about. If I enjoyed a book that I'm going to talk to you about, I need to remember what it was actually about. Then I listened to an audiobook of an author I've never listened to an audiobook of hers before. I listened to Flower Crowns and Fearsome Things by Amanda Lovelace, and I have never listened to an Amanda Lovelace audiobook. I really enjoyed listening to Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Pepernell, and then I have subsequently listened to more poetry because of that. I have a video talking about all about that. I'll leave that linked up above. But I've always done Amanda Lovelace books as physical books. However, the physical book of this one is not released until December here in the UK, and so I ended up getting the audiobook from my library and listening to it on my way to work, because it is quite a short audiobook. However, listening to the audio book meant that I had some author notes along the way of why certain themes were chosen and why certain things were included or not included in the book. And so I actually really enjoyed that. And I think I will definitely get a physical copy of this one, and I will definitely reread it as a physical copy. However, I really enjoyed doing the audio copy, and I might be tempted to reread some of Amanda Lovelace's previous poetry on audiobook because my library has them, just because I liked that extra little insight that we got from the author notes as we were reading them. So if you are thinking of picking up some poetry on audio, I recommend it. It was an eye-opener for me, definitely. And then we have 3 more books to talk about, or maybe 4 more books to talk about. I've lost track of everything that I've read this month, clearly. I listened to Blackout, which is an anthology of stories that take place around a similar theme. So they are standalone stories, but they are all linked with a common theme of this blackout in New York. And so it's love stories glow when the lights go blackout, and I really love that. So we've got Dhonielle, Clayton, Tiffany G. Jackson, Nick Stone, Ashley Woodfolk, Angie Thomas and Nicola Yoon. I will say that the Nick Stone story felt so Nick Stone, and the Nicola Yoon felt so Nicola Yoon. It was really nice that those stories, the authorial voice was just so distinctive in them. I really, really enjoyed listening to this. I like the fact that we had distinct stories because it meant that I felt like I kind of completed a section of it by the time I got to work or by the time I got back from work, rather than feeling like, oh, you know, I have to pause it here and I really want to keep listening. I did want to keep listening, and I liked the way they were interlinked, and I liked what they had to say as well. And they were very sweet stories, and I really, really enjoyed the differences between all of the characters and the differences between all of the settings while still having this common theme there. So I really recommend that one. I really enjoyed it, and the narration was really good as well. It was different narrators for some of them, and it talked about who each story was by and who each story was narrated by as well, which I thought was a good feature of the audiobook. I didn't want to have to sort of miss out on that one. And then I finally finished listening to The Last Letter from Your Lover by Jojo Moyes, ready to watch the film whenever I can find it anywhere to watch. It's a difficult one. It came out very briefly in UK cinemas, even though it came to Netflix literally the day I left the US. So we'll be trying to find this one so I can make a book versus movie for you. I'm hoping that I enjoy the movie more than I enjoy the book, because this is one of those where I was like, wait, what time are we in? Who is this now? There was one section, the sort of more modern section, that I definitely connected with more. But the older section, I really struggled to follow who was who. And so I really hope that that is a lot better in the movie. So watch this space, make sure you're subscribed and have hit that notification bell for that book versus movie coming your way. I mean, the casting is amazing. So why was it not bigger in cinemas, or why did we not get it here on Netflix straight away? Tell me in comments, where can I watch this film? I want to make a book versus movie video about it. And then I listened to Beautiful World, Where Are You? The one thing that really struck me about Sally Rooney's latest novel is the amount of consent in this novel. I loved it. If you are a writer and you are looking to see how you make consent sexy and how you write consent into your novel without stopping a sex scene mid-flow to go, are you okay with this? can we do this? Can I touch you? Read this book, because it was, you know, Sally Rooney novels. We've watched and read Normal People, book versus movie of that one. I'll leave it linked up above. And so we know that she writes some sexy novels, very, very character driven and very sort of, you know, characters' sexual desires driven as well, which I love. But the fact that every single sex scene, there was some sort of consensual agreement there. I loved it. I came in, I was like, we've had 3 more sex scenes, and all of them, consent was in the sex scene, but somehow it was sexy and it kept the sex scene flowing. And so that's my big takeaway from the Sally Rooney's latest novel. I really enjoyed the audiobook of it. I'm kind of glad again that I just bought the audiobook, or did I borrow the audiobook? I think I borrowed the audiobook from my library actually, rather than buying the physical book. I think because I listened to Normal People as well, and it has an Irish narrator, and so it's just great from that perspective, so you kind of get into the characters' heads a little bit more. I really enjoyed it, and I just loved the fact that it was sexy whilst also having consent built in there, if you are looking for a novel that does that. Beautiful World, Where Are You is the one for you. So how many books did I read altogether? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's really not bad. And I missed one out. I reread There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This is a YA horror novel. I first read this book in 2017, right here in this room. Had to go and close my windows because I was so scared. The movie came out on Netflix this month, and so I made a book versus movie video for you. I adored the book. You'll have to go and watch the video, linked in the end screen, linked up above, to see what I thought of the movie. But yeah, 10 books this month, all of them audiobooks. November is probably going to be very audiobook heavy as well. So if you are looking for audiobook recommendations, you know, what the narration was like as much as what the actual book itself was like, make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss out on my thoughts on my November reading coming your way very soon. As I say, some of these books I have already reviewed, so the review will be on my blog, on my Goodreads, and both of those are always linked in the description box below. Let me know in comments what you read in October. Did you read any audiobooks? Did you only read physical books? Was there one particular kind of book you relied more heavily on this month, and why do you think that is? I will be back with a movie review for you at the weekend and more bookish content for you next week. So I will see you then. Thanks for watching.